I'm WG and this is a CZN character showcase. 8 days are all that's standing between us and the game. Today's topic, Hugo, the extra attack machine. Will we be able to survive these remaining 8 days? I do hope so, because the wait was plenty and isn't as long anymore. So, Hugo, the 5-star ranger from the order attribute, meaning he does increase damage to order units as well as to their tenacity bar, their break bar, that upon you breaking it gives you an AP. But yeah, that's just the break mechanic as a whole. So, Hugo himself, first off, I did not pull him during the limited playtest, so I wasn't able to take a screenshot of the mechanic in game. But this is the way his main mechanic works, and that it's called Hunting Instinct. Hunting Instinct means that whenever an ally attacks, you perform an extra attack. You can build up to 5 of these stacks. This is important and should be kept in mind, because this is what his whole kit revolves around. So, starting off, you have your 2 dagger throws, 100% damage, and then a shield. Tends to be the case for DPSs that they have 2 attacks and then a shield skill rather than a heal skill. We have the Hunting Instincts, a upgrade card, and Outbreak of War, meaning you guarantee get this on your hand the moment you start any battle, and then you play it out, and it works kind of like a passive. And what that passive does is that when another combatant uses an enhance or skill card, so it should be other units that aren't him, right? Other units that aren't him, I don't think he can trigger it himself. When they use an enhance or skill card, enhance is here talking about an upgrade card. So whenever that symbol says either the skill symbol, the blue symbol, or the green one, the lightning, upgrade or skill, that is when it counts towards him gaining a hunt commence stack, or better said, Hunting Instinct, right? Some of these name schemes don't quite match up, but I do believe that will be fixed by the time the game fully releases. And then we have the next card, the Fan of Daggers. Haste is a buff, or you could say a tag, where using this card does not reduce the action count of an enemy. So the way this works here is that every time you face someone, they have a certain amount of action count, and that is until they do their action. The way that works is every card you play reduces the action count by 1, and should the action count hit 0, even before your turn ends, the enemy is already going to move and do their attack, their skill, their whatever it is, and haste gets around that by not reducing the action count even though it's an action. Then what you do is you deal damage to a random enemy 60% times 3, so 180% damage, and then based on the number of targets hit, you gain Hunt commands. So for example, if there's one enemy, you use this skill 3 times, you get 1 stack of Hunting Instinct. There's 3 enemies, you use this skill, everyone gets hit, you get 3 stacks, but because it says random enemies, it could also still hit the same person 3 times, meaning you would still only get 1 stack. Then we have the Quick Fix. It is also haste tag again, deals 80 times 2 damage, and if you are in the hunt command state, which means having at minimum 1 stack of Hunting Instinct, you draw 1 attack card. The incredibly okay, that's a bit much, but the interesting part here that it doesn't specify that it has to be a Hugo card, so either you can pull an attack card from another teammate, or what you could also do is through the clever playing of the roguelike mode, you could get rid of all the attack cards of his other team members, always guaranteeing you that you're going to pull a Fan of Daggers no matter what, should it be in the draw pile, right? So you can kind of play around with the amount of attack cards and the like you have in your deck to guarantee specific cards being pulled through the Quick Fix. Then we have Dingo Howling. You get a 100% shield and 2 stacks of Hunting Instinct. And then Way of the Resolver. I know the text is very small, but it says unique, meaning you cannot clone it. At the end of a Chaos run, you have the ability to clone cards to make your deck even more powerful. But unique cards are so strong that they would be game breaking if you could. What this says is the extra attack of Hunt Commence damage increases by 100%. Extra attacks usually tend to start at 100% damage. So what that means is that the extra attack dealt by Hugo every time someone uses an attack, he is going to add 140% rather than 100% damage with his own extra attack, right? And on the note of extra attacks, also a unit that instantly comes to mind is going to be Selena. We talked about her already as an OP 4-star in that she really works together with the extra attack mechanic and also has the, for example, every time an extra attack happens, you take like a tenacity bar away, and you can then multi-break enemies and stuff like that. So the synergy between Hugo and Selena is definitely then, if you want then already someone else in the team, you could add a Nia in as well, who also further increases extra attack damage, as well as has the ability to cast extra attacks from the graveyard and the like. So now that we have everything like this out of the way, now that we have the base skills, here's the ultimate. It deals 250% damage to all enemies, and then depending on how many hunting instinct stacks you have, up to 5, you deal 30% extra damage. So anywhere from 250 to 400% damage, with the stacks being either 30 to 150% damage depending on the amount. The only remaining things to look at are the epiphanies and then obviously the awakenings. So let's start with the first one. Hunting Instincts upgrade card. Simple and straightforward, just a 0 cost, meaning you can start every battle with this and you don't have to pay anything for it. Then here you can see that even though this is quite long, the only thing that changes is there's an addition, and that is there's a 50% chance of gaining an additional stack. So you play this card out, and every time someone plays a upgrade or skill card, you can potentially get 2 stacks. Now this is also super tiny, but when another combatant uses an enhanced or skill card, you're getting 1 stack, so that stays the same. But if Commence the Hunt is triggered, there is a 100% likelihood of a random ally performing a joint attack on the target. Now what that actually means, and I know this looks super weird, but if this is the case, then that means every time an ally attacks, then Hugo Commence Hunting Instinct attacks, and then another ally also attacks. Could be the same one that started the attack in the first place, or could be the third ally then also performing a joint attack. So a lot of attacks going on. Then we have the cost reduction change to a skill card, meaning you have to also play it multiple times, but you do get a Hunt Commence number equal to the number of skill cards in hand. So if you have 4 skill cards, you would gain 4 stacks of Hunt Commence, bringing us to the last one, that when you use an enhance or skill card, you gained Hunt Commence 1. And the only change here is that this enhance or skill card now also works for Hugo himself, because when another combatant part is gone. Bringing us to the Fan of Daggers. So here's just an increase in the multiplier to 110%. This is just a cost reduction. Here we have something different in that you deal 250% damage, and when the damage is dealt, you have a 100% chance of performing a joint attack with an ally together on the target. So an extra joint attack on top that can also again synergize with extra attacks and the like. Then here we just have a multiplier increase. And then also if under Hunt Commence, meaning you have any amount of Hunt Commence or Hunting Instinct stacks, you do an additional 100% damage. Now the big question here is this 100% to the 90%, so meaning 190 times 3, or is it just a flat out 100% on top at the end? So that's the difference between it being 270% to 370%, or 190% to 570%. It is a 200% damage difference, so I don't know, we have to see. Maybe some of you played them and can let me know down below. Fan of Daggers, at the start of the turn, deal damage 60% times 2 to random enemies, gain Hunt Commence, the number equal to the number of targets hit. So again, you have a pretty much 50% chance to walk away with more than 1 stack, but you at least guaranteed 1 stack, and it's an upgrade card, meaning you wouldn't have to play it again throughout the fight, but also it loses out on being an attack card. Here's just a normal damage increase. Here you get an extra hit, but you do not draw a card. So this would be, I do believe, 80% times 2 plus 1 times 80% times 2, so 320%. Then in the middle here you have a higher multiplier and also an increase to drawing 2 cards, but these could be any cards, doesn't have to be an attack card. With the 4th one you have a 1 further hit at 60% damage, and then if you have the state, you increase all enemies action count by 1, meaning that if an enemy were about to move, you can increase it by 1 and then play another card without the enemy taking a turn, while this is also on haste, meaning it itself won't increase that action count. And then lastly, you deal 120% damage and you reduce your max hunting stacks by 5. So the maximum amount of stacks you can have is 5, but every single time you reduce it, which you do up to 5, you do an extra hit. So with 0 stacks you do 120% damage, at 1 stack you do 240% damage, and then if you were at 5 stacks you do 720% damage, because it's 5 times 120%, or yeah, an additional 600% damage, which is quite a lot. Bringing us to Dingo Howling, more commands of the hunt or hunting insect stacks, higher shield, just a bigger shield, and if under the state you also gain an even bigger shield, so 200% instead of 150, and then again still 2 stacks. The upgrade card, that upon gaining hunting commands, draw an attack card up to 1 times per turn, meaning you'll be able to build up hunting commands better, you'll be able to cycle through your deck more efficiently, and especially if you have AP to spare, this can be really useful. Then for the 4th one you have hunting commands 2, and then chain, add another hunt commands 2. Chain is that if you play a card and then this card after, that triggers the chain effect, because it's like a chain of playing cards. And then Dingo Howling, for the last one, you hunt commands 2 and then you just draw 2 attack cards. So kind of similar to the way that the Fan of Daggers worked. No, wait, the quick fix worked, and that you can draw yourself attack cards. So quite a lot of potential in these skills overall. Bringing us to first off the potential, which adds a 50% chance to gain a hunting insect stack every time you use a throw dagger or his basic attack, which is his throw dagger. Then the A1, so getting him twice, increases the extra attack damage to 50%. Getting him a 3rd time, whenever hunt commands is triggered twice, you deal additional damage of 80% times 2 to random enemies, and if the target is the same, you gain 1 stack of hunt commands. So for example, if there's only 1 boss, you're guaranteed to get a hunt commands, and what this means is that every second interaction of hunt commands. So listen to a hypothetical scenario so you get a bit of an idea of what this does. You're facing a boss and you have 2 stacks of hunt commands. You use 2 attack cards and you trigger your 2 extra attacks, and after the second use of hunt commands, this awakened memory triggers, deals the 80% damage times 2 against the boss because you're in a single target stage, and then you get another hunt command stack back you can play out. So pretty much every time you use 2 stacks you get an additional one, meaning 2 is 3 and 4 is 6 stacks, right? I hope that made it a little more clear, just a little bit. So here we are for the 4th copy of Hugo, and that is the upgrade to the ultimate. And interestingly enough, it's nothing you can actually see on the card, it's something separate, and that is whenever you use last resort, which can only be used 1 time, because every time you use a ego skill during a fight, it just goes away for the fight. But when you do use it, you increase the max stacks of hunting instinct from 5 to 6, which opens up a lot of more possibilities for multipliers in the cards itself, for the amount of times you can use it, the amount of times it can break prior awakenings, but also for the amount of damage you can get out of this, because it's going to be an additional 30% damage should you have 6 rather than 5 stacks. To the A4, whenever hunt commands is triggered, so the no, this is the 5th total copy, the ultimate was the 4th total copy. You get what I mean, right? So whenever hunt commands or hunting instinct is triggered, you gain Arbiter's Wrath 1 time. For 1 turn, Hugo's damage plus 10% max 4 stacks. So if you trigger 4 stacks of hunting commands, you have a 40% buff of Hugo's damage for this turn, but it goes away the turn after. So the more hunting command stacks you have, the bigger the damage bonus. And then this is the A6, so the 7th copy. The 6th copy, yeah, I know a lot of copy names and a lot of copy numbers. The 6th copy actually gives you 6% damage to any multipliers on any cards overall. It's the same way that 4 stars work, but 5 stars only have it once instead of twice. Then the liberated memory, the final one. At the start of the turn, you apply Hunting Mark 1 to a random enemy. Hunting Mark, when hit by the effect of hunt commands, you gain Morale 1. Morale 1 increases the damage of any single multiplier additively, so just plus plus 20%. So if, for example, you have a card that does 80% damage, you add 20 on top, so it does 100. If you have a card that does 80% damage times 2, you still add 20 on top, meaning it's 100% times 2. So the more hits a card has, the more effective morale is, but overall morale just adds a percentage of damage on top, which is 20%, and then depending on how many stacks of morale you have. Remove when triggered or when hunting mark is applied to another target, so you'll be able to get yourself a morale 1 for a turn pretty much for free, you could say. So that is basically already all that you need to know about Hugo, and let me re-record the ultimate.